Hello and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and today I want to share you the bookish adventures that I enjoyed on Saturday. So last Saturday I had the entire morning and most of the afternoon to myself, and serendipitously there was a library sale that day. So I made plans to go there and do some other book hunting things, but also with my birthday money, I had purchased some shelves for my shelves. And so my plan was to reorganize and restructure so that I could fit my books a little bit better and perhaps create space for some new books. So I filmed this intending it to be part of my weekly reading vlog, but then it was so much footage that I was like, you know what, this needs to be its own video. So here it is, my Saturday bookish adventures that I had last weekend, and I'll take you along with me to the library sale and whatever else I can get into, and let's see how I make my shelves work. It is Saturday morning and I have big bookish plans today. I got, with my birthday money, I finally was able to order and pick up some shelving. So I can reorganize my shelves a little bit to hopefully create more space for the books that I have. I don't necessarily need to buy any more books, but I need to create some space for the books that I have not read yet, so then I can read them all and then get rid of the ones I don't want to keep and then get some more. So anyway, that is on my agenda for today, is doing that organizing, but also, and this is going to seem at odds with the former, but I have my reasons. So I am going to be going to a library book sale also. Library about 15 minutes from my house is having the library book sale today, so I'm very excited to go there and see what they have on offer. I also am hoping to hit up a couple of yard sales because the rest of my family is helping someone move, and I was not invited to the moving party, and I am not sad about that. So I am not going to be lifting furniture and heavy boxes. I am going to be book shopping and yard selling and generally having a marvelous time. Let's go book hunting and yard selling, shall we? Library sale, and at first I was very disappointed because it was a packed sale. There were tons of people there and I was like, oh, this is going to be good. But then they only had one table, a longish table with a lot of books on it, but only one table with general fiction, and all of the fiction was on that, and then a much smaller table with classic and vintage books. And that's where I spent 90% of my time there. Kind of browsed through the rest of the sections. They had a mystery and suspense table, and then everything else was either children's, young adult, or nonfiction. So they didn't have as much fiction, which is mainly what I'm looking for, because I have plenty of nonfiction on my shelves that I have to go through. I simply cannot buy any more of that. I was a little disappointed, but all the same I managed to spend some money. So here we go. Let me show you some of the things that I bought there. First of all, I just finished Evangeline by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and so I was delighted to pick up this little book called Tales of a Wayside Inn, and it has a little sticker on the inside, Longfellow's Wayside Inn in South Sudbury, Massachusetts. So I want to look up the history of that. And it is some of the poems by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, including The Wayside Inn, The Landlord's Tale, Paul Revere's Ride, etc. So a whole bunch of his poems, his shorter poems. So that is such an adorable little copy of that, and I was so excited to get it. And it was, this particular one was printed in 1975. So got that. And I just love pretty vintage books. This is What Men Live by Leo Tolstoy, a Peter Pauper Press book. And look at that, I like this story by Tolstoy. I love some of his short stories, and they just really pack a little bit of a punch. This doesn't say when it was printed. I don't know. But it has these really interesting purple and white illustrations, and the actual cover is just the same as the slipcover. So I thought that was a really pretty display book. And then I am rereading everything by Louisa May Alcott. Bird? What is that bird doing on my car roof? Okay, it's gone now. Was there something on my... Oh, I think maybe he dropped it. He has something in his mouth. It's a crow. Okay, sorry for that close-up on my face. Apologies. But a crow landed on the roof of my car and was like hopping around there. And I was like, what is it doing? That's a little creepy. Anyway, Under the Lilacs by Louisa May Alcott. I am slowly rereading. I'm pretty sure I read almost all of her children's classic novels when I was young, like a preteen. She was very formative for me as a child. I can only handle her in small doses as an adult, but Under the Lilacs is one of the ones I want to reread next. And look at these lovely green and white illustrations on the end pages. So pretty. And then this full color illustration. And this particular one was printed, I don't know. It was printed in the United States of America, but it does not say when. So who knows? Probably mid-century at some point, but that is another vintage one. All those vintage ones were $2. I'm slowly trying to read everything by Susan Meissner. I've read a couple of hers. I have a mixed relationship with her. I've not loved everything that she's written, but I love her writing style. I don't always like what she's saying in her stories, to be perfectly honest. Her one about the flu epidemic in the early 20th century, that one I didn't like at all. There was a lot of stuff in that one that I could just completely disagree with. One of the romance storylines was an adulterous relationship, and it was portrayed as a positive thing. And then there was something else about that I just did not like. Then there was another one of hers that I just DNF'd because there was like a supernatural element to the storyline. And as far as I could tell, based on the blurb and the way the story was going, that it would remain a supernatural element. And that didn't interest me. So I don't love everything she has written, but I love her writing. So I'm willing to give all of her books a try. And as Chrissy says, if it fall, it fall. But for $2, why not try it? And I honestly could not remember if I have a copy of this at home, Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. But if I do, I'm pretty sure it's a paperback. And this was a gorgeous, gorgeous hardback cover in perfect condition. Haven't read it yet. I definitely want to. I love Ruta Sepetys. I've read 2 or 3 of hers so far, and I want to read all of her entire backlist. So that is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. They also had Between Shades of Grey, but I know for sure I have that one. And also I think the copy they had was not quite as nice as the one that I already have. So I didn't pick that one up. I haven't fully decided what I'm going to do with this one. But I just liked it. They had a whole set of these vintage children's copies with, look at these cute little end papers. This one is Andersen's Fairy Tales, but there was like a whole collection of children's short stories by various authors. There was Washington Irving's short stories, but they were all in kind of varying conditions. This one was in the best condition. And I haven't quite decided if I'm going to keep it or not, but it was the best of all of them. And I have a bit of nostalgia for Andersen's Fairy Tales. I really enjoyed them as a child, particularly The Little Match Girl. Yep, which is in here on page 193. That's my favorite by him. So I picked that one up as well. So I had some great finds there. I was initially thinking, oh, I'm not going to find a lot there. But then in the end, I actually found some great deals. And so now I'm going to go get myself some coffee at a coffee shop I'm not usually able to go to because they close at 3. They're not anywhere near where I am during the day. So summer is my time to take advantage of these sort of things. So I am going to go get myself a cup of coffee and then head over to a yard sale. Well, it's a yard sale, but it's at a church. So like a flea market, sort of like, you know, it's more than just one yard sale, right? It's my favorite kind. I'm dropping books everywhere. All right, coffee, let's go. Here we go. I am back from my travels and I went to a thrift store or two. I went to the yard sale. It was a bust. It was not worth going out there. And actually I didn't really find much at the thrift stores either. So I wasted a couple hours running around looking for stuff. Didn't find anything, but here I am at home. The coffee was good. And now I'm ready to get to work. So this is my Jane Austen shelf. Kind of a mess. Right? I am hoping that with my new shelves that my husband so kindly put together for me, that I can make some sense of this, fit everything on here, and perhaps even have room for more books. Maybe. I may have to lift this wreath up a little higher. This wreath was a gift from my sister at our wedding. She actually made it from the roses from our wedding. And so it's real dried flowers and leaves from our wedding. And it's pretty fragile, but I'm holding on to it as long as it lasts. It's been almost 20 years now. And I may have to move it up, but there's space on the wall to move it up a little bit if I need to. So here we go. Let's get started. Okay, let's zoom in a little more maybe, and see what we've got here. I can fit my entire Jane Austen collection on here now, and there is a little bit of space, a very little bit of space for a couple books, a few books. I see, depending on how big they are, maybe 3 to 4, 5 different books that I can, but before I do that, I may actually end up getting rid of some of the ones that are on here. Some of these I haven't read yet, and I have a feeling when I do, then I will be unhauling them. I just want to read them first. Anyway, so of course you have up there, following my finger, sorry it's not focused, that green box is what one of my sisters gave me for my birthday. It's a full volume set of Jane Austen's works, her complete works, in little small pocket size. And then I have my whole stack of annotated ones that fit perfectly right there. And then I have all of my Siri Jane's books in the shelf next to it. Plus, one of the ones I may end up unhauling is the Shannon Hale's Austenland that I haven't read yet. In the center, I have some kind of like coffee table sort of books. There is the edition of Persuasion that has like the letters inside it that Charlene gave to me. And then a book that is all about Pride and Prejudice. The actual book, Jane Austen's writing of it, as well as all of the adaptations that have been made from it and the different editions, etc. And then the Jane Austen escape room puzzle book that Shatona gave me. And then over there on the bottom are some more like, well, there's another coffee table book that is Jane Austen cover to cover. And then I have a couple Jane Austen's letters and a biography, one of her biographies. And then above that on the left, I have a couple more biographies by her, as well as a nonfiction book I really loved, which was kind of like essays about Jane Austen's books and their effect on the author's life and what he learned from them. One of my favorite nonfiction literary analysis books. And then all the way over on the left side is another coffee table book, The Jane Austen Year, which I got with my birthday money. And it is by the Jane Austen house at Chawton Cottage. They put that together this year to celebrate her 250th anniversary. So that is a book I will treasure for a long time. Then in the kind of center there, those shorter books that I was able to stick in there. It's just kind of short books, like size-wise, that could fit in that spot. That is the unifying concept there. Again, we have the Prayers of Jane Austen, which Shatona gave me also. I have a couple more biographies that I need to read about Austen and see which one I like. And then just a couple of books that are quotes from her or a little bit about her, other stuff like that. And then last shelf is this one here that has my box set of her novels, as well as some other random editions like her over here. On the left side are her shorter works or unfinished works in juvenilia. There is a manga version of Emma, and then there is a Russian version of several of her books in a bind up. And then her book Charlotte, which is that Sanditon? Is it a completion of Sanditon, I think? I'm not 100% sure. So, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. My Jane Austen shelf. Next project. I got 2 smaller shelves because I would like to make more use of these shelves on either side of my Austen shelf. So these are, on the left-hand side, we have some author-specific shelves. There's one that's outside the camera frame. You can't see, it's a little too high, but that is my Bronte shelf and it's pretty full. And that shelf is actually at a good space. So I can leave that one there. And the next shelf down is also at a good space. That's my Alcott shelf. And I leave that one as it is. But then the shelf below that you can see how much empty space there is. I want to put another shelf in there. So probably it'll be about the height just to fit those 2 anthologies there about Shakespeare, and then see if I can fit some more books in there. We'll see. And then on this side over here, the same situation. See how much empty space is there. I want to move that shelf up a little bit because there's also empty space up there. I can move that shelf up a little bit and then have just enough space to put another one in there and hopefully be able to fit some more things in there. So that's my thought. Looking at it, I'm not 100% sure it's going to work perfectly as I imagine, but we're going to give it a go and see what happens. Okay, so I have been more or less successful here. I have separated this into 2 shelves and I was able to put all of my Shakespeare stuff in this shelf here, which is not a large collection, but I don't intend to really expand that one that much. I have that complete anthology, which is fine. And then the other ones, the smaller, single edition books or single play books, those ones, once I've read them, I don't intend to keep those copies. So what I have there is probably not going to expand all that much. So I don't need a lot of room for Shakespeare. So that fits there nicely. And then the Dickens collection may expand as time goes on. Honestly, probably what would happen is I would end up replacing some of those with nicer editions. But for now, they all fit there and there's room for more. So that makes me happy. So now I need to go to the other side. One thing I will say is that I was able to put some books on that Shakespeare shelf that were over here on that shelf there. So it created some space there already, which is good. And now these shelves are my next one. I don't know what I'm going to do. I need to move this shelf, this existing shelf up one spot. And then after that, I don't know. Clearly there's empty space there, but there's not a lot. So I may just make a narrow shelf that is just tall enough for some of those tall books there on their sides. So that may be all that happens here. But let's see. That was way more successful than I thought it would be. So, You know, this camera is facing, well, front facing, but I don't know, whatever it is. I'm gonna go sit over there and I'm gonna hope that I am in the frame, and I am going to show you what I've got here. So this shelf is all anthologies. I've got Complete Tales of Winnie the Pooh, Complete Tales of Beatrix Potter, The Moral Compass by William J. Bennett. Now this is just a really large book, Les Mis. It's not an anthology. It's just one really long book that's over 1,000 pages, and that's where it fits. So then I have Edgar Allan Poe, Complete Tales and Poems, 100 Best Novels Condensed, The Works of Tennyson, Anderson's Fairy Tales, and Redemption and Other Plays by Leo Tolstoy. So these are all bind-ups, and most of them were scattered on other shelves, so I was able to make space on those other shelves and put them all on here. And then I have all of the fairy tales stacked up here, so that kind of works nicely. I kind of wanted to put the Anderson's fairy tales there, but it didn't fit. That's fine. It could go in either place. Honestly, the Grimm's fairy tales could go down here, and that could go up there maybe, but we're gonna leave it as is for now. And then that also enabled me to put some books up here from other places. So I'm making room on other shelves, which is good. So I have all vintage copies of books up here on this shelf. These are all vintage copies that are not necessarily for me to read. They're just books to look at. So that was a success, more than I thought that it would be. So now I'm going to tackle this shelf over here, which I saved it for last because I think it's going to be the hardest. Not 100% satisfied with this, and I hope you can see me. Not 100% satisfied with this, but I needed another shelf for classics. This is my Lucy Maud Montgomery shelf on this half, which isn't perfect, but it's a good start. And then this half is classics I have not read yet. And I was able to make space on this shelf to fit all the classics that I have read, which is pretty good. I was able to rearrange and move stuff around. So far, a success. But now the next thing is this shelf. These three shelves are all of my fiction, general fiction and Christian fiction, and some vintage fiction. And I'm not sure that adding another shelf here is really going to create additional space for me, because I feel like I kind of have them cram-packed anyway, but we're gonna try. So here we go. Well, it looks neater at any rate. Let me see if I can walk you through what I've got here. So this shelf is my books that I have read and liked that are hardcover mostly. And then these two shelves contain an embarrassing amount of books that need to be read. And I didn't touch this shelf. This is the Christian fiction that I have read and am keeping. Behind these is a row of mass market paperbacks, most of which I have read, a few I have not. So it looks neater, and everything I have fits, including what I picked up today, so that's good. As I was putting it up here, I was thinking some of this probably I could get rid of at this point, but anyway, I am satisfied. I have organized, everything is a little bit neater than it was before, everything fits, and so far, success. I do have one more shelf. I have to think about the best use for that one. I'm not sure. So I will be thinking about that and figuring that out another time. That is it for this big adventure. So I ran out of time on Saturday to put in my last Billy book shelf. So I ended up doing that on Monday. So now it is Tuesday morning, and I just wanted to show you what I did with the final bookshelf so I didn't leave you hanging in suspense. I know, you couldn't sleep at night without knowing. What did I do with that third shelf and where did I put it and etc. Yes, I put it here. This is my nonfiction shelf, which was full to bursting at the seams. And now I am much more pleased with how it looks and how it turned out. It's much neater, much more organized, and there's a lot more space. I culled a couple of books from it. I do think I can go through these shelves and get rid of some more. I was noticing there were some titles I probably don't need to keep and or will never read. So I might do that. There's a room to do that in the future to make space for more books should I come across them. So let's look at these shelves and see exactly what I did. Okay, so first of all, I moved this shelf up, and I'm sorry that we have a hand and a disembodied voice, but the tripod is too short for me to lean in here. So this shelf I moved up a spot so that I was able to make room for this shelf. And I did very careful measuring before I did this just to make sure that it would work. I have these big coffee table books. Actually, most of them belong to my husband, but some of them are mine. And they're like art books and architecture books and other stuff like that, that we want to keep, but they're not something that, you know, we look at very often, if ever. So I wanted to keep them, but also they were kind of in the way on this shelf down here because they were so tall. I had to keep, you know, so much space here, but then none of the other books on that shelf were nearly as tall. So it was a waste of space. So I put this one in so that I could accommodate these books on their sides. And that worked perfectly. They all fit exactly. So that was wonderful. And so then because I did that, I was able to rearrange this shelf and then this shelf and put the things that I actually needed on there with a little more space. So let's look at the middle shelf. Over here, I have all of my music related books, or most of them. The ones I have more at work, but these are the ones that are just more for my personal reading pleasure or at home and my personal reference. So music, nonfiction books. Here are some more folk song collections, dictionary of music, etc. And then over here on this side, we have my Russian books. This is a book of poetry by Pushkin, Я вас любил, and it's in Russian. My goal is to read some of these in Russian, but I think I may have read like the first one. And then here, as I said, are the art books and things. All right, I'm gonna angle down here so we can see the bottom a little better. These are reference books and education related books on the left-hand side. And going up through here. And then this is my literature section, but not actual books of literature. These are books about literature. Like I have Dickens Land, How to Read Literature Like a Professor, How to Read a Book, and other things related to that. Literary Washington, D.C., What Jane Austen ate and Charles Dickens knew. Those are all here on my literary section. And then the rest of this is my travel section. So a lot of these are mementos, books that I purchased at places that I've been and wanted to remember. Others are travel guides of places that I want to go. So that's my travel section there. So all in all, I'm pleased with how that turned out. I did not take a before clip, so I wish you could see the mess that it was before because it's definitely a lot better now. And finally, a step back view to see everything. The Jane Austen shelves in the middle, and then the Dickens and Shakespeare smaller shelves to the left, and then the anthologies and fairy tales and vintage books to the right, and all of the nonfiction here. All of that is so much more neatly organized now. I did not get to this shelf at all, and as you can see, it does need help, but I don't think an extra shelf is going to fix that problem. I mean, there is some empty space there, but I don't know how to fix that. So, and then over here on this side, you can see where I organized all of my classics and fiction books. So I'm very satisfied with this day's work. So that's it. I am very pleased with how all of my shelves worked the way that I thought they would. And I feel like it creates some interest on the shelves because now I have some books going in different directions, but it looks more organized, like and intentional, and not just haphazard trying to squeeze everything on the shelves. I think it looks so much neater and it fits my books better. And I did create a little bit of space, not a great deal, but a little bit of space. Plus I had fun going to a library book sale and going all around town, drinking coffee and thrift stores, whatever. It was a grand day. Thanks for coming along with me, and I will see you next time. Bye.